Hello and welcome to Concordia Today. I'm Sherry Claridge.
And I'm Annick Lucier.
Coming up later in the show, we'll have an interview with Bill Mariani, a young up-and-coming film producer in Montreal. But first, the news. Annick?
Concordia is mourning the tragic death of Mary Tarleton. The 49-year-old had been working at the registrar's office since 1963. She died on January 28th of complications from Streptococcus A. This strain of Streptococcus is not the same virus that took the leg of Bloc Québécois leader Lucien Bouchard.
Concordia cinema students have been petitioning the university for years to improve the hazardous conditions in the Fine Arts building. One cinema student is trying to keep the university from sweeping the problem under the rug. Rita Kotsia has more.
Eric Paulson is a rebel with a cause. For the last year, as president of the Cinema Students Association, he's been fighting on their behalf.
We're about 300 students crammed into a very, very small space with lack of air quality. It's just a lot of students are getting really fed up, and we're very unhappy with the program.
He says the university must invest in the cinema department because it's crucial to grooming future Canadian talent.
Right now, Concordia produces, I think we produce about 27 hours of films a year, which is more than they make a telefilm or an FB or at least about the same amount.
The department squeezes in the basement of the Fine Arts building. They've had to turn away free donated equipment for lack of space. But crammed quarters is not the only issue. Paulson says toxic air sent down from other departments like photography settle in the basement. It's not uncommon for students spending long hours in the editing rooms to faint. Paulson also says there's a lack of community within the department.
We're completely separated. I tell you, I didn't know an animation student until the end of last year. I didn't even know where they lived or what they did or what they studied. It was yet we're in the same department, and it's a shame because we're trying to make films together. When I envisioned coming to university, I imagined community and spirit, and we don't even have a common place to hang out, like a lounge or even a hallway with a bench in it.
Paulson says there's an available larger building located across the street. He says moving the department there would be cost efficient.
In the middle of something really big.
For Concordia Today, I'm Rita Kotsia.
Don Collymore is no longer the president of the Political Science Student Association. He is the second member of the PSSA Executive Council to resign because of constant infighting. Earlier this term, VP Internal Shefik Mina also quit. Maury Jacobs, once VP External, is now interim president. Though the resignations come as no surprise, it was only confirmed on January 26th. For now, the PSSA plans to go ahead with scheduled events and planned speakers.
Finding a job in the 90s is not getting any easier. Career planning professionals say networking is the way to go. Concordia's mentor program helps students break into the job market. With more, here's Lauren McCallum.
Students often look to teachers for help in getting a job, but with large classes, it's often difficult to get the help they need before leaving university. Concordia's Alumni Association has done something about it. They've recruited 90 volunteers who have made it in the real world to help students find jobs. Gabrielle Korn is the Assistant Director of Alumni Affairs. She helps direct the mentor program.
By meeting a graduate who is in the field, they can give a perspective on what the job market is like today.
Alumni and students interested in the program need only sign up at the Alumni Affairs office downtown.
Even though the national demonstration against Lloyd Axworthy's reform is over, students are still fighting the proposed Green Paper. On January 23rd, the Concordia Student Union Council passed a motion. This motion asked student groups to lobby their local members of parliament in a part of a cross-country-wide effort. Students are asking MPs to vote against any action that would restrict university funding. They are also calling on members of the opposition to speak out against it in Parliament.
Metals, glass, plastics, and paper are all recyclable materials, but unfortunately, they don't recycle themselves. A new system at Concordia is making it easier for students to participate in this worthwhile practice. Jennifer Goldfinch has this report.
Concordia students have not always taken advantage of the school's recycling program. but a new, easier system allows people to put plastics, glass, and cans in the same bins. Duff Anderson is recycling coordinator at Concordia University.
I don't think that the university is supposed to recycle for anybody, but they do have an obligation to provide recycling services to anyone who wants to live that lifestyle.
Both mixed and paper recyclables are collected weekly by the school and picked up by outside companies. The school actually makes more than $7,000 a year for its recycled paper. But Anderson says students are not recycling nearly enough, considering their daily routines.
The student group is the loudest, but also the weakest. They take on obligations and they seem to back off whenever other priorities come into play.
Concordia's recycling committee is still in its developmental stages. Through hard work and education, Anderson and the recycling committee hope to have everybody at Concordia soon participating in the 3 R's: reducing, reusing, and recycling. For Concordia Today, I'm Jennifer Goldfinch.
In other news, employees of the Concordia Student Association are fighting to keep their employees' union. The union has been without a head executive since its president resigned last December. The Quebec Labor Board was called into a meeting last week to determine if the union still has the support of half of its employees. If the union does not have majority support, it will be disbanded. The Quebec Labor Board has not made any official decision as to the future of the union.
Concordia University students are heating up their winter with salsa and merengue lessons. Adriana Brasileiro has this report.
Some Concordia University students have discovered the sensual rhythms of the tropics. They are beating the winter blues with lessons in merengue and salsa. The dance lessons offered by the Latin American Students Organization are a great way to take a break from school. So if you want to make your winter more caliente, contact the organization. For Concordia Today, I'm Adriana Brasileiro.
The Latin American Students Organization is located at Annex Q at the Sir George Williams campus. For more information, call 848-3532.
Patrick Thériault usually puts his muscles to work, but now the Concordia wrestler has also put his looks to work. Thériault volunteered to pose for the 1995 calendar for the telethon for research into children's diseases. The calendar is being sold to raise money for the cause. It features only male models, where Thériault is featured in May and in February. Thériault says he was happy to do the calendar and likes the thought of helping kids.
A group of Concordia students were sent to prison on January 31st. They had committed no crime. In fact, they volunteered to go to the medium security Archambault institution. It's part of Concordia's prison visitation program. Reporter Thomas Mall spoke to one new volunteer before and after the Archambault experience.
What are you expecting to find up at Archambault?
I'm not really expecting to find, I'm just expecting to find a lot of confused people. I'm not really expecting too many things in particular, but I know that it'll be interesting.
Have you been warned about any dangers about taking part in this program?
I've been warned not to dress too provocatively. I've been warned not to exchange anything directly with the inmates. But on the whole, I've been told that they'll respect me if I respect them.
Peter Cote is a Catholic chaplain who works at Concordia's campus ministry. For him, this program has many benefits to students and inmates.
I think it's very successful. I think it's one of the more successful programs that we do as a department year in, year out.
Security concerns kept our camera outside the prison, but David Shantz, the Archambault chaplain, said that the inmates found the students' visit uplifting. Mitz agreed, adding that her perspective of inmates has changed after the visit.
Just that all human beings have feelings and, problems.
After the first day of the prison visitation program, both inmates and students are calling this a success. Near St. Anne-de-Plaine, I'm Thomas Mall for Concordia Today.
And in sports, the men's Stingers basketball team has reached first place in their division with a 7-1 record. If you're a diehard basketball fan, you can catch them in action at the Lynn University Tournament in Florida. The tournament takes place the weekend of February 10th.
That's the news for this week. For Concordia Today, I'm Sherry Claridge.
And I'm Annick Lucier.
Stay tuned for an interview with Bill Mariani, a young up-and-coming film producer in Montreal. Hello, welcome back to the show. I'm Sherry Claridge, and with me today is Bill Mariani. He's a young film producer in Montreal, and he's also the co-founder of Black Watch Films. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
So, to start off with, how about if you tell me how you first got interested in film producing?
Really, it was just my friend and I, Kevin, who's my partner, picked up a video camera one day, started doing some acting in it, and that first time bringing the tape back, putting it in the VCR and seeing it on TV, we were just hooked from then on in, and have made our own films since, but this is our first real feature, 35mm feature film.
So how long have you actually been producing films?
Producing them, a couple months. Making them since I was 13.
13. And how old are you now?
26.
26. So that would put you in the Generation X category. In case people aren't familiar with it, that's the category of young adults who have been told by the media that they have a rather bleak and dim future. How do you feel being labeled in that category?
Well, I mean, I don't feel that I have a bleak future. I don't think that Generation X exists. It's just a label that one person put on young people, and then people have sort of grabbed onto it. Basically, because people like to have labels. When our parents were young, they put a label on them as well. What Generation X is just, I think, young people realizing that the opportunities that were there for our parents are no longer there for us. There's not enough money around anymore. So companies are not hiring people as much. So people our age have to make our own opportunities. It takes a long time to do something like that. I was 24 when I started this project, and now I'm 26, so that gives you an idea of how long it takes.
Yeah. And if you could be a spokesperson, say, for Generation X, what advice would you give young adults who are starting out in the industry or just looking for a job in any field? What advice would you give them?
The most important thing would be to do it, to actually do it, because about 99% of the population are people that have dreams that never follow up on it. The biggest thing someone can do is step into it, get their back against a wall, and then move forward. Also, it's important to know that there are no such thing as problems, only solutions. Every obstacle can be overcome, and never stop.
And with what's going on in the Hollywoods of Canada, so to speak, namely Toronto and Vancouver, one would think that a young film producer as yourself would want to venture to one of those cities to make it big there. Why did you choose to stay in Montreal?
Well, first of all, if I was to go to Toronto or Vancouver, it would be a lot harder.
Why is that?
Well, because Toronto and Vancouver are so big, and there are so many productions going on, that the crews have a choice of where they want to work. In Montreal, there's nothing going on, nothing. So if someone like myself comes along with a new way of making movies, they'll accept my new way. You know, when you deal with unions, there's certain rules that you have to follow. So in Toronto and Vancouver, they're very rigid because they can be. Here in Montreal, they'll bend the rules. Although I didn't go union in the end, but they still would have bent the rules.
What about any sort of a personal attachment? Is there something about Montreal that you really like, and would you want to stay here if given the opportunity, say, the same job opportunity in Toronto as opposed to Montreal? Which would you go for? Would you stay in Montreal or would you go to Toronto?
I'd stay in Montreal.
Why is that?
Well, I'm born here, raised here. I would never leave Canada, and I would never leave Montreal. It's hard to explain, but I feel an attachment. My whole family are American, and I'm the only Canadian, and so I have that strong patriotic blood that runs through my body. So when I hear the Canadian anthem, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. So the movies that I make will take place in Montreal, will be financed by Montreal, so I'll never hide where we are. Montreal will never double for Cleveland or Pittsburgh. Yeah. It'll always be Montreal.
What about as far as crew goes? Do you have a hard time finding good crew members here in the city?
No, not at all. Like I said, I did not go union on this picture, but I went with students from Concordia. I hired professionals for the key positions like camera, lights, and then the assistants under that were all students at Concordia. And these students not only impressed myself, but the professionals. They worked hard, 20 hours a day, never stopping, sometimes out in minus 31 weather, and they never complained.
How about tell me what your film is that you just finished shooting last week? What's it called?
It's called Obstruction of Justice.
And are we going to be able to see that here in Montreal?
Yes, definitely. Probably at the Montreal Film Festival.
Okay. And can you just give me a brief outline of what kind of movie it is?
It's a suspense drama. It's kind of like a Big Chill gone bad. It's ask the question, what would you do if you found out one of your friends was a murderer? And we were able to get Sarah Botsford from ENG to come down and star in it, and hopefully people will go see it.
Bill, what about financial backing? Is it hard to obtain in Montreal for a film?
Well, I mean, it's hard to get financial backing for any film anywhere. Montreal is no exception. What was difficult for us was that I mean, we're no one's, so no one was going to give us money. And we had sent scripts out in the beginning to try to get big companies to finance us. And we kept getting rejections. So what we did is we designed our own investment package, and we went out and sold it. And so we raised all the money ourselves. And we sort of did it naively, not knowing anything, and apparently we done something that's never been done in the 125 years that Canada's been a country.
I heard that. You set legal precedents with this film.
Yes, we did. So, it's kind of exciting because I really believe we can build a Canadian industry based on the way we finance this film, because we don't really have one right now.
Okay, and what are your long-term goals? What are you going to work on next?
Well, we're producing 3 feature films in the fall, and our company is taking a much larger step this time, where we're actually going to distribute the films theatrically and to home video by ourselves.
Okay.
So.
All right, that's it for this week. Thank you very much, Bill. Bill Mariani, a young and up-and-coming film producer in Montreal. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
For Concordia Today, I'm Sherry Claridge.
We get a lot of enjoyment out of the process of making books, actually.
A lot of enjoyment out of the process of making a book. Process.
I had the opportunity to visit with Colin Christie and Corey Frost from GAW Press this past week. They taught me about micro-publishing in Montreal, chapbooks, and doing things yourself. GAW Press has been together for almost 1 year and have co-produced or produced 6 chapbooks and 1 cassette.
For example, was put together by students in Scott Lawrence's creative writing prose class, 426 last year in March, I guess.
Hence was a project that we worked on with Michelle Power, who has a 2-year history of editing this publication. It's an annual. It's a collection of poetry by a number of people who got together. Truth, Memory, and Lies is a book by a good friend of mine named Stephen Edgar, and he's living in London. That's Ontario, not England. But he was in Montreal. He's a former student at Concordia, and his poetry is a confessional sort of 90s free verse, accessible kind of poetry.
Lollapalooza is from the Lollapalooza spoken word stage of the summer of '94, just the Montreal show. Silver Sockles is by Judy McInnes, and she's a Vancouver writer who was in Montreal for the summer and liked us, so approached us about publishing this book.
The Sentence That Thought Life Was Simple. It's a concept book. It's about the sentence. The sentence is a character who thought life was simple. He started life in a book of literary criticism. We see it's a lot of mail because he's made a lot of friends around the world from traveling in various translations. So he gets mail from writers who live in Montreal but who have been abroad. And there's a lot of stamp licking going on and kind of a sex story on the side. Wired on Words. Our latest project is a cassette and book with joined with this snazzy goldenrod colored sleeve. And it features the performances from some of Montreal's up-and-coming performance poets that were on CKUT's Wired on Words series.
Last February,
We
Corey and
published quite a few
Colin
people
started
from my
planning a
class,
chapbook for their creative writing workshop
it was
held
a
by
good
Scott
start.
Lawrence
I
at
mean, that's where we
Concordia
got our start,
University.
because the first project that God did, everyone, was called For Example. Tell us about For Example, Colin.
For Example came about when the class decided that they wanted to put out a chapbook of their work together as a class. And Corey and I somehow ended up being the producers of that chapbook. I don't really know how it happened. It was just sort of like who volunteered for it or something. But it was good. We were both interested in making chapbooks, and this gave us an opportunity to work together. We discovered we enjoyed working together, which was one of the benefits of the project. Anyways, we had 11 authors. Is it 11? 11 of the class members, not all of them, but 11 of them contributed both a story and I think it was $10, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And $10. That was the what?
Funding.
For the book. And $11 a story. And so Corey and I, well, mostly Corey played with the layout, and we made decisions together and produced a chapbook, similar to the way we described how to make a chapbook in the other room.
It was fun. Generally, I think what it involves, first and foremost, is a bit of gumption and motivation. Gumption is important, and that's what we've got. Basically, we started off with gumption, and we take some of it, and we get a text, basically something we like, interesting and fun, innovative, something maybe that's from a writer that we're familiar with. We take it, and then we start to fool around with it, and we have a lot of fun doing that, I think.
We don't change the text, mind you. We just fool around with it on the computer. But it doesn't have to be on the computer either. We can just fool around with it on a page. And then we get it to a point where we're happy and finish fooling around with it. We take it to photocopier, and then we have to glue and staple a lot for weeks afterward and hope that people will buy it.
Chapbooks are not a new thing. Webster's dictionary notes that chapbooks were formerly carried about for sale by chapmen, hence any small book of popular literature.
Is there a market for chapbooks in Montreal? Well, interestingly enough, we put chapbooks on consignment into bookstores like Danger and The Word, and we go back in a couple of months and they're gone. So someone is buying them, and this pleases us. And it encourages us to continue telling us that there are people out there who are interested in the things that we're doing. I don't think neither Corey or I would be able to go on doing GA if our books weren't selling. It would just seem useless. We'd put our energies elsewhere. Right now, Corey and I are working on a novel of sorts that we hope to put into a series of chapbooks. We hope that'll come out by March, and we're also going to start, we hope, a series of very small chapbooks, this big, that we'll call something like the Single Series, and they'll have a single story in them, sell for cheap. And outside of that, we're also hoping to maybe start a magazine that will come out every couple of months that will have serialized fiction in it.
GA means 3 winters and 1 autumn in the 17th century in Minsk.
Corey and I were fortunate enough to trip across each other in, as we mentioned, Scott Lawrence's class. And well, when we got to talking, we realized we had something in common. We both had the same middle name, GA. Meep, meep.
Heart disease and stroke are Canada's #1 killer. Your donations fund education and medical advances that save more lives each year. Thanks to research, he has a pacemaker. She has a grandfather. Help give someone a second chance. Please give generously to the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
If you have any questions or comments for us here at Concordia today, please don't hesitate to call us at 848-3440 or fax us at 848-3441. If you have a modem, you can reach us through email at studioa@vax2.concordia.ca. Jackie Lou and Lori Graham will be here next week, and I will have an interview with Suzanne Belson of Concordia's Ombuds Office. Hello and welcome to Concordia Today. I'm Jacqueline Liu.
And I'm Lori Graham.
Later in the show, we'll have an interview with the coordinator of disruptive behavior and sexual harassment and a report on CUTV, Concordia's television station. But first, the news.
On February 6th, the university cut 10% of the audiovisual department's budget. One of the hardest hit areas is the popular Mighty Avista Lab. Alexandra Henderson has more.
Though student demand is growing, Mighty Avista services are being reduced. The Multimedia Lab's budget has been cut by $3,000. Some students fear the cuts will mean more than long delays to use equipment. Kathy Sisler is an award-winning editor in Concordia Student.
This department, like Mighty Avista, is where really innovative work is being done. Okay, I mean, like in computer-generated images, in computer work, in video editing.
Sisler is worried about the cutbacks.
It's going to hurt students. It's going to hurt Concordia.
For Concordia Today, I'm Alexandra Henderson.
Changes to faculty sabbaticals might not be applied after all. Vice Rector Academic Robert Parker sent letters to faculty deans last week agreeing that restrictions on sabbaticals do not conform to the collective agreement signed by the Concordia Faculty Association. Last fall, Parker outraged faculty members by restricting sabbaticals as part of a budget cut plan. As a result, CUFA's executive committee passed a grievance of non-confidence in the university's administration. CUFA's president, Bill Nitter, said the association will withdraw the grievance if the sabbatical process is carried in good faith.
NDP leader Audrey McLaughlin visited Concordia's downtown campus recently. She was there to participate in a forum on women and politics, but her main message went out to all students. Paul Gott has more.
The J.A. de Sèvres auditorium was packed for the panel discussion, and the panelists' message of the need for women to get more involved in the political process was well received. Audrey McLaughlin made the most passionate appeal to all disadvantaged groups.
So I challenge people to be a part of the democracy. If you don't like the way it's working, get the hell in there and do something about it.
McLaughlin was also in town to promote the NDP in the recent federal by-election in Saint-Henri-Westmount, which includes Concordia's Sir George campus. This is Paul Gott for Concordia Today.
For most Concordia students, a cheeseburger and fries can hit the spot during the February crunch. But for some students, discipline and devotion guides them through the flurry of midterm exams. Diane Kuzian has this report.
In the day after. This is 5 pillars. If one pillar is not there, no one is considered Muslim.
February is the holy month of Ramadan. Muslims all over the world celebrate their faith in God during that time. That's even at Concordia, where about 2,000 Muslim students study. Each Friday, for Ramadan only, they hold prayers at the Old Reggie's to a capacity crowd of about 200. But while most Concordia students go about their daily bread, devout Muslim students must fast for the entire month. According to the Quran, they can only eat and drink after sundown.
Maybe sometimes during lunch hours in the first couple of days, you'll be tempted, your stomach is really going and you feel like eating, and then people around you are eating, you smell good food and so. But you try to concentrate on something else, or you can't really concentrate. Good thing is to either listen to a Quranic tape or just open the Quran.
Ramadan also asks that Muslims be kinder to each other despite the sacrifices imposed.
Actually, I feel better now that I fast. I guess you feel you're giving up something, so you feel good about yourself.
For Concordia Today, I'm Diane Kuzian.
The tutorial system in Concordia's mechanical engineering department might be getting a facelift. Students in the department have long criticized that they don't get the help they need through the tutorials. In general, sessions are too short because of a lack of teaching assistants. The students hope Concordia will hire more TAs. Another problem is the lack of coordination between TAs and professors concerning the subjects of the tutorials. A student survey and a committee are planned to evaluate the situation. Proposed changes resulting from that are hoped to be implemented by fall.
Last year, the Loyola campus bar, The Hive, was forced to close its doors due to a lack of interest and financial mismanagement by the student union. But all that has changed. Self-sufficient and armed with new management and a new outlook, The Hive has reopened its doors once again. Jeff Blond has more.
Once again, students have a place where they can relax after class and shoot a couple of games of pool. Or they can catch up on their reading, hang out with friends, watch TV, and drink a beer or two. Mark Ferris is the operations manager at Loyola Campus Center. He says there's a good reason why he's worked so hard for the Hive to reopen.
Right now people seem to be, I guess, spending a lot of time here and there spread out around campus. I'd like people to be able to feel that they can come here. There are a lot of activities going on. They can come have a good time.
The Hive has made it a policy to hire only Concordia students. The bar has been repainted, and more pool tables have been added. So it doesn't matter if you're a good player or not such a good player. The Hive is once again a fun place to be. But what's the real reason the regulars return here?
Cheap beer. And Randy.
And Randy the bartender.
It's pretty quiet tonight, but overall, action is beginning to pick up as the Hive buzzes again. For Concordia Today, I'm Jeff Blonde.
There's a new type of self-defense class offered to Concordia students. It's called White Crane Kung Fu. Marilyn Guévremont has this report.
1, 2, 3.
Instructor Lauren Bernard has brought an ancient Chinese martial art to Montreal. It's called White Crane Kung Fu. The former Concordia student perfected his art in Malaysia. He now operates the only 2 White Crane Kung Fu schools in North America. Bernard explains his discipline.
Okay, White Crane Kung Fu is a southern Chinese martial art. It was invented by a woman, and she adopted the strategy of avoiding people's power. So because she wasn't as strong as, say, a 250-pound Manchurian guard, she chose to sidestep his movements and strike pressure points. And the movements she used were based on the crane, just like a crane's beak might pierce a tiger attacking it in the eye, well, so would a white crane person adopt that same strategy.
At least 40 Concordia students have signed up for Bernard's courses this semester.
Kung Fu instructor Lord Bernard offers discounts especially for Concordia students. Why not come down and offer yourself some self-defense courses? You never know when you might need them. For Concordia Today, I'm Marilyn Guévremont.
If you're interested in signing up for a class, you can call 843-5177, or why don't you drop by the studio at 1435 Blurry Street in downtown Montreal.
Political science students were angered when a new government policy threatened to restrict future job opportunities. One of the Government of Canada's Foreign Service exams now has an additional requirement for political science students. In addition to their degree, they must demonstrate a proficiency in Japanese, Mandarin, Korean, Russian, or Arabic. Concordia's political science chair, Dr. Henry Habib, says the new changes are too sudden and unfair to students. A spokesman for Canada's Public Service Commission said the restrictions were necessary for staffing requirements and will not be changed.
Be prepared. Concordia shuttle bus drivers are cracking down, and they want to see your ID cards. Several Concordia students were refused entry onto the bus last week because they didn't have their IDs. One student was even forcibly removed by security guards when he failed to produce his ID. ID checking started in October to prevent non-Concordia students from getting a free ride. But now Concordia students are wondering if the free ride is worth the hassle.
That's it for the news. Coming up, we'll have an interview with the coordinator of disruptive behavior and sexual harassment, and a report on CUTV, Concordia's television station. For Concordia Today, I'm Jacqueline Liu.
And I'm Lori Graham. Thanks for watching.
Heart disease and stroke are Canada's #1 killer. Your donations fund education and medical advances that save more lives each year. Thanks to research, he has a pacemaker. She has a grandfather. Help give someone a second chance. Please give generously to the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
Welcome back to Concordia Today. I'm Lori Graham. Joining us on this part of the show, we have Sally Spillhouse, who's the coordinator for disruptive behavior and sexual harassment here at Concordia University. Welcome to the show, Sally.
Thank you, Lori.
Now, when I first read your title, Coordinator for Disruptive Behavior, I thought that was something that students would have left behind them at the high school level or the elementary school level, but I never imagined we'd have disruptive behavior here in university. What exactly is disruptive behavior?
Well, I think you have to realize that the university is a microcosm of the larger society of which we are a part. And we're a community of 30,000 people. So it's normal to expect that some people within that 30,000 are going to act up in some way or another. When we talk about disruptive behavior, we're talking about behavior which seriously interferes with university activities, whether they're academic or administrative or anything else. We're not just talking about one-time outbursts of temper or behavior which is a little weird or culturally different or eccentric.
So
we're
these are
talking about behavior which really has a serious impact on the activities of other people.
So these are students then that are continually acting up.
We're not just talking about students. You know, anybody can be disruptive, and members, you know, we've had examples of staff people, faculty members, and students being disruptive to varying degrees. They're not always very serious situations. We try to deal with them before they get serious, in fact.
Disruptive in what way?
Well, it might, for example, in the case of a student, mean somebody who is persistently interfering with the conduct of the classroom, or the sort of climate of the classroom. There's a difference between participating actively in class and interrupting and disrupting the process of a class. So that would be one example for a student. We've had staff members who have been very difficult. Sometimes there's a problem of mental health involved. Not always, but sometimes. And so we try to address that particular situation. We've had faculty members who've threatened other people. You know, and I think in the wake of the murders which we went through here at Concordia, we're particularly sensitive to trying to respond in an effective and quick and meaningful way to anything which looks as though it might threaten the safety of another person.
So what do you do as the coordinator of disruptive behavior and sexual harassment?
Well, for the disruptive behavior, I try to think of myself as a kind of a glorified traffic policewoman. My job is to see that everybody who is responsible for responding to a given situation gets the information they need, gets the expertise that they need, makes the right decisions, and carries them out. And it's my job to see that nobody gets forgotten in that process, and that the people who need to know about what's happening are informed. I think this is something that was very lacking before, was coordination. And that's essentially what I do. And it's already, I think, proved very helpful for people to know that there's one place that they can call to get information, advice, resources, referral for expertise, and to know that if they signal a problem to that place, the appropriate response will be swung into action.
So is this then a relatively new office?
Yeah, it's a new protocol, shall we say, which has been in operation for about a year now. And it happens to function out of my office because I was appointed to coordinate this protocol. So it's functioning out of the sexual harassment office, but it's a separate function. We just use the same address and phone number.
Let's talk a little bit about sexual harassment. Is that what you deal with primarily?
That's my permanent function in the university. The disruptive behavior is an interim function until we make some long-term decisions. As sexual harassment officer, my job is to give the university information and do some sort of public education on the issue. My job is to receive complaints from people who believe that they have been harassed and to advise them as to their rights and to explore with them their possible courses of action. And if somebody chooses to file a formal complaint under the procedures of the policy, then my job is to see to it that the complaint is handled in terms of those procedures and those timelines. I don't judge complaints. What I do is to support and inform the parties to a complaint so that they make the best decisions for themselves.
So what steps would you follow if somebody came to you with a complaint?
Well, my first job, I think, is to sit down and have a look at the complaint in question and to make up my mind whether or not I think it fits the criteria or the definitions of the policy. That having been done, what I will try to do is to explore with that person the different alternatives that they have for resolving the problem. And that might mean examining the possibilities for what I would call an informal resolution. as well as explaining how the policy would work if there was a formal complaint filed. The important thing, I think, to remember is that anybody who comes to me for advice can do so in complete confidence. They're not going to have to reveal anything about themselves until and if they file a formal complaint. And most situations don't get resolved through a formal complaint in any event.
How many do?
Oh, there's been a handful. There's been maybe 5 or 6 in 4 years. The very vast majority of things which people bring to my attention get resolved in more informal ways. Quite often just by the person, it's usually a woman, so I'd say herself, and sometimes just through negotiation, awareness raising, that kind of thing.
Now, you said that the complainant is usually a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I know with the new blockbuster movie that came out, Disclosure, in that case it was a man who was claiming that he had been sexually harassed. And do you have any incidents here at Concordia of men coming to see you? Or?
I think I've had 3 in the 4 years that I've been in this job, or since the existence of the office. I'm not sure what that means. I do believe, because almost all the statistics will confirm this, that the vast majority of complaints are by women about men. But I do think it's also possible to have other combinations and permutations. And I think that it is possible that men in certain situations might be harassed by a woman. I think that men might be harassed by other men. And I think that women might be harassed by other women as well. Particularly when we're talking about a situation where there's an imbalance of power and where somebody is in a position to coerce the behavior of somebody else.
What advice would you give Concordia students?
With regard to sexual harassment, the most important thing, I think, is get some advice before a problem gets too serious. Whether it's happening at home or whether it's happening at school, you can get help for a variety of problems. And the sooner you do it, the better it is. It can't do you any harm, and it just might do you a lot of good.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's all the time we have left for today. If anybody needs to get in contact with the Disruptive Behavior or Sexual Harassment Office, they can do so by calling 848-4857. Thank you for joining us, Sally.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I'm presently in the editing room of Concordia University television station, also known as CUTV. CUTV is the oldest student-owned and operated TV station in Canada. It is also the biggest club at Concordia University with over 100 members. It's a great place to meet new people and to extend your television interest. How many people are working here for CUTV?
Presently, we have a little over 100 members right now working in various parts of CUTV. We consider CUTV 3 different parts, which is programming, which is our on-air switching, actually sending the signal to the monitor system, our editing, and production.
Did you have any background in television before you came here?
Well, in terms of school, yes and no. I did not have any professional experience working with TV. I had professional experience in writing for news, but for DCN, I worked for Dawson College News when I was in Cégep. And that was one experience with a TV studio that I liked a lot, and I enjoyed it so much that I decided to apply to communication studies here at Concordia. Oddly enough, once I was in communication studies, I didn't actually become a part of CUTV until my 3rd year, is here right now. And I really enjoyed it. It was great.
I came here and I was all excited, and he told me what to do, and that's how I started from there. And it's fun. It's fun to create.
Are these members all communication studies or film studies people?
Actually, no. We have a pretty wide variety of different members. Yes, there is a certain percentage that come from the communication field and film field. However, there's a lot of students that are not. Some of them come from English literature, library studies. Pretty much anybody who has an interest in television is welcome here at CUTV. You don't have to be a part of any academe, any sort of television facility whatsoever.
My name is James LaRochelle, and I am I am an assistant program director, and I'm also the producer of That Weird Thing.
And what is that show about?
It's a science fiction and or animation program.
Hello, and
welcome to The Weird Thing. And this week, my guest is Martin Jean, and we're going to be talking about Ranma Half. So, Martin, what's Ranma about?
Well, Ranma is basically about a guy who turns into a girl.
And how does this happen?
Well, they study martial arts, and they went to China to train, and they came upon these training grounds with pools. And inside each pool is the soul of somebody who drowned. And the guy tried to tell them that if you fell inside the pool, you would turn into that person, whoever drowned in the pool, right?
What kind of shows are being aired by CUTV?
Mostly because of we do have limited resources. We're a very modest facility, so most of the shows are interview-based, interviewing different people, different heads of the community, different comedians, as one of our shows does. One of our shows is a puppet show that's also produced here. Also, we have the news, which is done in studio. We also send them out to do stories every so often.
You gain a broad knowledge of what it is you want, and basically you do whatever you want here.
And do you produce any shows here at all?
I'm the one who produces the puppet show, but I try to help out on every production whenever possible.
CUTV manages to do a lot of shows in a set smaller than most of you can imagine. The space in which these people work is incredible. The grid and most of your organizing system has been thought of and done with material more than simple. They usually have to think of some ways to use the most basic elements and do wonders with it.
Presently, there are 4 monitors in the hall building of Concordia University that you can catch us on. There are 4 monitors in Reggie's Bar that we air on for a couple of hours a day. We don't air out there. We don't give our 100% of programming there. And paperwork is being done right now to see if we can get our stuff aired on Canal.
If you get the chance to see the news, don't forget the contest and fill out the form just outside CUTV offices, and maybe you can win posters, CD, and so on.
For all Concordia students who would like more information, they can call our number. Our number is 848-7403. You can call us here, that's our extension, or if you're within the school of Concordia, simply dial 7403. You fill out a membership form, and once you do that, you are a member. Now, where you want to start, whether it be in programming, which is on-air switching, whether it's editing, or whether it's in the production aspect, that's up to you. It's up to how many hours you have a week to donate and what you want to start with. We ask a minimum of 2 hours a week when you start off.
And where are you located in the hall building?
We're located on the 6th floor, room 651. And if you're in the hall building, you just drop on by. Between the hours of 11 and 5, there's always somebody here.
Don't forget that you can catch CUTV in the 4 monitors in the hall building and at Reggie's Pub. For Concordia Today, I'm Julie Brabant.
Thanks for tuning in to Concordia Today. Join us next week when we'll have a report on cultural groups and an interview with Suzanne Belson of the Ombuds Office. And if you'd like to comment on anything on the show, you can call 848-3440 or fax us at 848-3441, Or you can email us at studioa@vax2.concordia.ca. And have a good week.
Hi, and welcome to Concordia Today. I'm Lori Graham.
And I'm Jacqueline Liu.
Coming up in the show, we'll have an interview with Suzanne Belson from Concordia's Ombuds Office, and we'll have a report on Concordia's ethnic and cultural associations. But first, the news.
Valerie Fabricant has appealed to a higher power. He asked the Quebec Court of Appeal to overturn his conviction for the 1992 murders of 4 colleagues at Concordia. Fabricant appeared before the 3-judge panel last week. The former mechanical engineering professor said Superior Court Justice Fraser Martin violated his rights. At the original trial, the defense was terminated before Fabricant could testify. Fabricant is currently serving a life sentence without parole for 25 years.
A new Montreal entertainment magazine is on the stand, but only those on the cutting edge of technology will be able to read it, if read it is the proper phrase. Paul Gott explains.
The magazine of the future is being made in Montreal today by a young company called ThoughtWorks. The first issue of Click hit the newsstands in January, but Click is no ordinary magazine. You need a computer to read its combination of stories, music, and video. Brent Barrett is a graduate student at Concordia and one of the 3 people who put Click together. He describes the contents of the first issue.
An interview with John, and he reads 12 pages of his latest novel, The Son of the Circus. We have a piece on the Noam Chomsky documentary, Manufacturing Consent, and you can click through that and get all kinds of information about the film, about the filmmakers, and about Noam Chomsky as well. And another interesting piece that we have is at the Alex Colville exhibition. It's basically like going to a museum. You see the picture, the paintings that Alex has done.
ThoughtWorks is now expanding its multimedia efforts. It plans to produce Click magazine every 3 months.
The first issue of Click magazine is available now at computer stores and selected magazine outlets in Montreal, Toronto, and New York. The cost is $35. This is Paul Gott for Concordia Today.
Over 2,000 Montrealers marched against Human Resources Minister Lloyd Axworthy's proposed social reforms last week. Although the federal government has announced the upcoming budget won't affect transfer payments, student and labor groups are continuing their fight. 20,000 people were expected to attend, but freezing cold weather kept many at home. The march was organized by Solidarité Populaire Québec, the coalition of women's groups against the Axworthy reforms, the coalition of students, and 3 unions.
Canadians aged 20 to 29 are in the fastest growing group of reported AIDS patients, but fear of being identified can scare away those who want to take the HIV test. That's why Concordia's health services have announced a new anonymous HIV testing service. With more, here's Thomas Mall.
There are some 800 reported cases of AIDS affecting university-aged Canadians. Concordia students have asked for an anonymous testing program here. Now students can get tested at Concordia's health services.
I would say we've all had a period of risky behavior in our past. And it's a good way to prevent a spread of the HIV virus.
Appointments can be made by calling 848-3575 or 848-3565. For Concordia Today, I'm Thomas Mall.
For years, people have complained about the air quality in Concordia's hall building. Now, an administrative decision has made it worse. In January, the use of the building's ventilation system was cut back in order to save money. Energy consumption in the building costs over $1.5 million a year. The administration consulted with environmental experts to make sure the air was safe. But some are not satisfied. A staff member recently passed around a survey to gauge people's opinions on the quality of air in the hall building. She hopes the results of the survey will convince the administration to reopen the vents full-time.
Several Concordian students emerged winners last week as the school hosted the 11th annual Quebec Engineering Competition. George Matrakos, John Theophanopoulos, and Brendan Montour won the competition's highest award and shared $1,000. The trio's project was a conversion of a Ford Escort's motor to electric drive. The same team won second prize in the design category, while 2 other students picked up third-place finishes in design and editorial communication. Overall, 87 students competed on 46 teams in events that range from editorial design to extemporaneous debate.
In science news, Concordia has gone state-of-the-art. Chemistry and biochemistry students, as well as researchers, now have access to a new machine called an electrospray ionization mass spectrometer. Mass spectrometry involves the identification and study of ions in the gas phase. The new the new spectrometer can analyze molecules in living matter and has many uses in biochemistry and also in the pharmaceutical industry. Concordia is the first school in Montreal to train graduates in this new technology.
Concordia has long enjoyed a reputation of fostering creative and innovative work. Sea Theory is one such example. But now this electronic journal dedicated to theory, technology, and culture is threatened by budget cuts. The university has frozen Sea Theory's funds. Geneviève Napier has this story.
Sea Theory is Arthur Crooker's baby, the online version of the journal he and his wife founded over 15 years ago. But as Concordia tightens its belt, the journal could end up on the chopping block. Despite the increasing popularity of the internet, Concordia's administration feels Sea Theory just isn't worth its annual budget of $18,000. But Croker doesn't see it that way.
This is what a university is about. And if you don't have these activities going on, then you don't have a university.
Sea Theory's readers seem to agree. They've sent over 300 letters from 29 different countries praising its role in the global exchange of ideas. In doing so, it's put Concordia on the academic map. Croker says projects like this enhance Concordia's reputation.
Because these are the core functions of teaching and research, and they have everything to do with Concordia's mission statement, which is real education for the real world.
Sea Theory's future will be decided in June. Croker hopes the letters will help sway the administration. But he's not too optimistic. The person who will make the decision, Vice Rector Robert Parker, has refused to talk to him. We were also unable to reach Dr. Parker for a comment. It looks like in the end there's nothing Arthur Croker can do but wait and hope for the best. For Concordia Today, this is Geneviève Napier.
Radio CRSG's hand-to-mouth days are over. Concordia's downtown station recently met with the student administration to submit a budget in order to receive much-needed money. The station had been without a budget since last summer, and without any money, they couldn't maintain their equipment. The station plans on repairing equipment in their on-air studio as soon as possible.
Working during the summer months can be monotonous and unchallenging for some students, but it doesn't have to be that way. The Student Work Abroad program allows you to visit some of the most beautiful countries in the world and make a quick buck in the process. Rita Kotzia has more.
Imagine visiting Paris, Scotland, New York. The Student Work Abroad program featured at this year's Travel Mart in the Hall building could be a head start. For a $100 to $200 fee, depending on the country, you get 2 nights accommodation and a temporary work visa. SWAP has centers in every major city. Margaret Callender of Voyage Campus refers to them as pit stops.
We help them with certain jobs that they may want to find once they're there. Plus, we give them an orientation center that tells them how to use a payphone, how to do their laundry, how to get around the city, how to use the metro system. It's really invaluable. That information alone is invaluable.
For Concordia Today, I'm Rita Kotzia.
Congratulations to Jason Dimitrov, Jason De La Roca, and David Wilson. The 3 Concordia students have qualified for the CIAU Wrestling Championships at the University of Calgary. The championships will run from February 23rd to the 25th. Good luck, guys.
Concordia students are taking a well-deserved break this week. The university may call it Reading Week, but most students know it as spring break. Some of the major hotspots that students flock to each year are Florida, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic. Some of you may not have been able to get out and travel, but whatever you decide to do, get out and enjoy yourself. Ooh, that sounds great. Fun in the sun.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to go.
That's true.
Anywhere. But anyways, that's the news for this week. Stay tuned for an interview with Suzanne Belson from the Ombuds Office and a report on Concordia's ethnic and cultural associations. For Concordia Today, I'm Jacqueline Liu.
And I'm Lori Graham. Thanks for watching.
Heart disease and stroke are Canada's #1 killer. Your donations fund education and medical advances that save more lives each year. Thanks to research, he has a pacemaker. She has a grandfather. Help give someone a second chance. Please give generously to the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
Hello, and welcome back to Concordia Today. I'm Annick Lucier, and joining me is Suzanne Belsom from Concordia's Ombuds Office. Suzanne, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Nick. It's nice to be here.
Great. I would just like to know what the Ombuds Office is for, in general.
Well, briefly, we are the complaints department for the university. Anybody, a student or a staff or a faculty member who feels that they've been unfairly treated in some way can come to the Ombuds Office. But we also do a lot of problem solving, and more than half of the people who come to us aren't coming with a specific complaint. They're coming to find out how to solve a problem, how to go, who to see, what to do, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, when was the Ombuds Office at Concordia established?
It was established before the merger. Both Loyola and Sir George Williams each had an Ombuds Office from 1970, which makes the office at Concordia now the oldest in Canada.
Okay. Now, many of us don't know what ombuds mean. Is there a specific origin of the name ombudsman or ombudsperson?
It was originally a Swedish word created in the 18th century when the King of Sweden appointed an ombudsman to deal with complaints from the military. But since then, the ombudsman concept has spread across the world, and there are very many ombudsmen who work for governments. We have one in Quebec, the Protecteur des Citoyens, who deals with complaints from citizens. And there are about 150 to 200 universities and colleges in North America that have ombuds offices now, and where there are ombudspersons to solve the problems and help deal with complaints.
Okay, now what types of complaints can students bring forth to you?
Students bring complaints about virtually every aspect of their career at Concordia, from the point of admission to the point of graduation and sometimes beyond. There are complaints about grading and course management, errors on records perhaps, tuition fees, problems with libraries. It really runs the gamut of every situation that a student could possibly face.
Okay, now if a student does have a problem with these things, how do they get in contact with you?
Our office is on the Sir George Williams campus. It's at 2100 Mackay Street. We also have the use of an office at Loyola where we go by appointment. Our telephone number is 848-4964. We keep regular business hours, 9 to 5, but we will make appointments in the evening if people have a hard time getting down during the day, or 8 o'clock in the morning, or on weekends. We can do a lot of our work by phone, and many of our cases we deal with exclusively by phone. Okay. And the answering machine can take confidential messages. No one has access to the machine except the people who work in the Ombuds office.
Okay, now are all cases confidential?
Every case is confidential until the complainant agrees that the Ombuds office should take some action. Most cases concern the situation of a single person. And if it's, say, a problem with an account, unless we can go to the accounts office and say that we're coming on behalf of so-and-so, there's not much that can be done. So we won't do anything at all on a case without the permission of the person concerned. If the person is reluctant to have their name released, then we will end it there and it will remain confidential.
Okay. Now, how can students be assured that you will not have any bias against them?
It's our job to be neutral and to be objective. And in any situation, we start out being objective, hearing both sides, all the sides that there are to hear. Eventually, in almost every case, that results in an investigation, and many don't. Many are information and referral. But where we investigate and come to a conclusion, we make a recommendation to correct the situation if we find a complaint is valid. If a complaint is not valid, then what we'll do is explain to the complainant why we don't agree, that their complaint is justified. And then we will confirm that the decision the university has made is the correct one.
Okay. Now, if you don't take the side of the student, is there a service at Concordia that will take the side of the student?
There is a student advocacy service,
Okay.
which provides a service to students, mostly students who've been charged with cheating, plagiarism, some infraction of the academic code of conduct. And they will represent students in hearings, in formal procedures, somewhat like a lawyer.
Okay. Now, what types of cases have you dealt with in the past?
Oh, it's hard to say. We deal with about 800 cases a year. And so there are very many cases and issues that come up. But there are patterns. In the summer, for example, we deal with a lot of students who have been failed in the previous year and are wondering how they can come back to the university. We deal with registration problems at registration time and with grades at the end of terms. It's a very, very broad spectrum. But in every case that we deal with, we'll ask ourselves, does this have a wider application? And very often what we'll do as part of our role as agent for change is make recommendations based on cases to change policies, to improve them, to create them, to modify policies that have become outmoded, so that we're not only looking at the individual case, but also the impact on the university in a larger sense and on students in a larger sense.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Suzanne Belson.
Thank you very much for having me.
The cultural organizations at Concordia are established to promote a better understanding of the culture, foster friendships between the students of different ethnic backgrounds and other students at Concordia, a place where people who share a common heritage can come together to communicate and understand one another. The purpose of this segment is to try and show the mandate of the associations, as well as their outlook on multiculturalism and the general student involvement. We inquired if Concordia students are getting involved in cultural associations.
No, not at the moment.
I would be, maybe next year.
We can see that we are limited to the number of members we have. So we have approximately 350 members here this year in 1995. So we send them out pamphlets and try to get them active, but it's limited. We're limited to those members that we have. We try to post up posters in the school to promote to other cultures and other people, but it's kind of hard getting them to the place where we're having our activity.
It is important for every association to set out its mandate and goals.
Well, it's mainly to fight the stereotypes that are here in the Western world, because there's more to Africa than the famines and the wars and the starvations and the jungle and all. And we're trying to bring out Africa the way we see it. Well, not just see it, but the way it is, the way, I mean, there's people really think that what they see in the media basically covers what Africa's all about, and we just want to show what people don't get to see and what we've experienced and we've seen in our lives.
Do you find that your mandate as a cultural group has been successful, especially in Concordia?
So far up to today, we can say that we've been very successful. We had a couple of activities. We had a Telethon a Star fundraiser. We called it a spaghetti dinner, and we have over 500 people come. We were expecting about 300, and there were over 500 people, so we had a little space problem. We had our Culture Week on the 30th and 31st of January, where a lot of people attended, and we're very happy on what we did, and it was very, very nice to see them complimenting us and telling us we did a good job.
We asked the students, as well as the organizations, if they thought that multiculturalism is successful at Concordia.
Is it successful? I think it is. Oh, big time. Concordia is known as being a big university open to any other ethnic or cultural groups. And I think it's pretty good.
I think the fact that the IEAC was set up over 11 years ago, and it has really benefited, Concordia has really benefited from this. The ethnic and international associations can concentrate on fulfilling the needs of ethnic students, as well as communicating and teaching the university community about the different cultures.
If the success rate of the cultural associations is so high, then why are some Concordia students still unaware of most cultural activities?
I haven't noticed it much, to tell you the truth.
Same here.
But,
Not really.
and I'm not really involved that much in this sort of.
But other than the showcases they show at the mezzanine, it's pretty good.
We tend to start off the school year with social activities so we can bring a lot of new students, new faces, into the association.
Orientation.
Basically, that's right, to orient all the new students and the old, bring us together. And so that way we can combine our forces and get some work done into more productive tasks, and to fulfill our mandate to the rest of the Concordian community through a cultural exhibition, which is probably our largest single activity and requires the most effort.
We've gotten quite a large response from non-Africans, from the IEAC, from CUSA, from student bodies in school, and they've really told us we've done a good job. We try as much as possible. We have these different events and stuff, so we do our best.
Personally, yes, being involved in the cultural association, I met a lot of other cultures, and I find that slowly but surely it will be good for everyone, and they will know about what we have to offer. So,
if the organizations are putting all of their efforts into getting people involved, why are some students still not making the effort?
Well, I'm not part of the associations, like the cultural associations. I'm usually interested in what they do here. Just walk around, they have nice stuff showing up at the mezzanine, but I don't think I'll be necessarily interested in about them. I don't know why. Probably not to. It's not a question of not expanding. I would love to meet people who are from different, come from different cultures. They have different cultures, and but I won't necessarily enjoy being in an association.
Concordia's student body is composed of many different cultures. It is one of the main aspects which makes this university successful. The mandates of most of the cultural associations are set up in a way as to promote and celebrate the uniqueness of all of our backgrounds. How is the Caribbean Students Association unique in its approach and in its structure?
Since we're from different part of the Caribbean, we unite at the CSCO and we share ideas and we welcome other people from other cultures too. Not because you're not from the Caribbean, maybe your parents are from the Caribbean, you are welcome to join the club and share ideas.
Honestly speaking, most of the people in our association are people from Africa or the Caribbean, people of African descent. But there are a few people who come like on special projects, so people who have interest in the continent, and you don't have to be an African to be a member. Anybody's welcome, and it's just open for anybody to come and all that.
The cultural associations and their activities are regulated by the International Ethnic Association Council. IEAC is composed of executive members from all groups. Frequent meetings of the council allow for all associations to participate together in the planning of the agenda.
The IEC is basically an umbrella association for 17 ethnic associations, and our mandate is to help these associations get their culture and their backgrounds known to the rest of the student body at Concordia.
The cultural associations are a primary source of information on certain ethnic backgrounds within Concordia University. They strive to combat the myths, stereotypes, and misrepresentations that have distorted their true image. The groups try to introduce the cultures to the university through sociocultural activities. They are there for all the students at the university. This is Nina Romano reporting for Concordia Today.
That
That's our show for this week. If you have any questions or comments, you can call us at 848-3440, fax us at 848-3441, or email us at our internet address, studioa@vax2.concordia.ca. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.